Hi friends, it's Genevieve and I'm back for episode number 7. And in this video, I made this specifically for all of you who are launching your personal brands, you're launching your businesses, and you are just ready to get customers to get to know who you are, clients to get to know who you are. So if that's you, stay tuned because I'm going to show you in 3 steps how you can promote your personal brand, elevate it without hustling. But first, if you're tired of asking permission to pivot, this is the channel for you. Hit that subscribe button and that like bell so you can be notified every time I come out with a new episode. So I've had to pivot throughout my career so many times because I'm just multi-passionate and I have many interests. And all throughout that though, without seeming flaky, I was able to pivot with purpose and really clarify my personal brand throughout it all. So I want to share those tips with you, how I was able to do that. So we're going to start with the first step. Okay, so step 1 is find your 3-word rebellion. All right, this is a concept that I picked up through Michelle Mazur's book. It's called 3-Word Rebellion and it's awesome. And it's basically saying, that people ultimately, they're not buying your goods and services, okay? They're not actually just buying the tangible physical product. What they're buying is like what you value, what you stand for. So as I like to put a few quotes together, it's that people are not buying goods and services, they are buying transformations. So what is the transformation that you stand for? What is the call to action that you stand for, okay? And if you're not sure what these things are, or think about the things that you could go on a diatribe about, or what are the things that make your blood boil? These are oftentimes your whys, the reasons why you do things. So for example, there is the great 3-word, which is Nike's 3-word rebellion, which is just do it, right? Just get out there and do it, right? And then there's these Simon Sinek's famous start with why, right? It's kind of like what we're doing right now. And then there's the other example of Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, right? Just stand up, get things done, 5-second rule. And there is also, right, we're currently going through, which is Black Lives Matter, right? These are all movements that stand for something and that are very, very relevant, right? So I'm going to give an example for me is that I took this exercise to heart and thought about, well, basically what is driving me, to my core. Is that I hate when people tell me that, we need to stick to one thing and that, we just only can do one thing in our lifetime, right? Or that it's too late to pivot, that I can't have a new career, or that, my dreams, they're impossible to achieve and that it's unrealistic. So I've just been like, I just go off on that, right? And I'm gonna spare you the details of that. But what it came down to for me was this idea of permission to pivot. You don't need anybody's permission to pivot, So take a moment. And actually, this is an exercise that I think is worth doing over a few days. It's not like you're gonna get this in a single second, and that's okay. And think about the things that get you up on fire, that light you up, and that you can just talk about and for hours on end because it just, makes your blood boil, or something that you're super, super passionate about and that you can talk about for on end, right? And think, what are those things? And is there a way that you can distill those messages all the way down into, a little tiny 3-word rebellion, okay? So take the time to do that and identify what your 3-word rebellion. Again, people do not buy goods and services, they buy transformations. So what is that 3-word transformation that you stand for? Friends, I would love to know what some of your 3-word rebellions are or the ones that you're working on, so please share and comment below. Step number 2 is show up consistently, all right? This one has everything to do about delivering your message with consistency. Do it on a regular basis. Be out there. You have a message, you have an idea that you know that you want to spark the world and you want to change it, right? With your business or your products. So how are you going to do that if you're not actually showing up? Okay, and let alone, it's not just about showing up here and there, right? Because that's not really building any kind of trust for your audience, right? What it is through constantly coming and showing up. And so what does that look like? Now, does that mean that you need to be showing up every single day like Gary Vee does at every, on 17 different platforms and doing it like 20 times a day? No, it just means that you need to be consistent about it. So if you decide that you want to share your message once a week, that is far more effective than sharing maybe here and there sporadically, one time here and then again a month later and then maybe a few weeks later, right? Because really we're trying to build a conversation, and conversations happen, as you know, through texting, is when there's not this good rhythm or cadence. It's kind of like it just starts to fizzle out. But when you start building that cadence, that's when that trust and that momentum starts to build. So show up consistently. Pick the amount of time that you want to come, that you want to show up for, and then decide, okay, that you're going to commit to that. The next part of this also is the consistency of doing this. So if your message is all about permission to pivot, right, or your message is about the 5-second rule, then make sure that your container for that is related to all of those things around your message. Does that mean that you cannot talk about anything else? No, but that it's related to it or that it supports that. If you're talking about things that are in contrast to that, well, then you're kind of creating this mental gap for your audience. So going back to being consistent with your message, and being consistent in the frequency at which you're delivering it and showing up, right? We know that the best practices are oftentimes, and the best habits are through constant repetition. And it's the same thing when interacting with your audience. The third step is share. It's really, really that simple. Share. Okay, and there's 3 things that go in share actually, and that you can be active in your participation of sharing. One is share how you just showed up. If you just created some content on YouTube, take it off YouTube and share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, share it with your audience in email, okay? Take it off and then send it to some other folks so that they can hear your amazing message that you just showed up for, okay? The other thing is you can also share, say, a blog that you just wrote with someone who you know might need it. That might include a few friends and family members who might be struggling through some of the suggestions that you have. Or you can share it, right, with potential clients, right? So this is the part about sharing where it's helpful. We're not just spamming people, we're actually using this and we're pointing it to people whom we know and we love and we know we want to help, okay? So this is the sharing of your own content or your own information and getting it out there. The other part about sharing is also helping other people get their message out. So think about some ways in which you can pull some interesting articles that you've read that you know could be helpful for other people. Share other people's content, share other people's products, amazing things. That doesn't take any time for you to produce. It really doesn't take all that much effort to actually repost something. This is so powerful. And it's also, again, to point back to this idea of conversations. We want to constantly have conversations going. Like the analogy of the text messaging, if you just stop texting all of a sudden in mid-sentence of a conversation, it's like WTF, right? And it just kind of makes the whole conversation fizzle out and you lose interest altogether. The most important part is just to keep that momentum, and you can do that by sharing other people's work, all right? And it's also really great goodwill in building connections and collaborations. The last part about sharing that I want to say is more so a mindset aspect, is that we're showing up and we're sharing because we decided to be professionals. We're not just hobbyists at this point anymore. You made the decision that you wanted to use your personal brand to really make a difference and accelerate, right? And to accelerate a message that's really important. And we can't do that if you're keeping everything in. So in summary, it comes down to 3 steps, which is figure out your 3-word rebellion, show up, and share. Wait, that's interesting. Show up and share. Okay, that could be like kind of like a 3-word rebellion. I'm liking that. I'm digging that. So if you liked this video, if you found this helpful, please hit that like button, and you can implement step number 3, which is share with your friends. And also, I do have a video on how to promote without feeling icky. This goes more into talking about yourself and also just elevating that personal branding of yours. So that video is right here, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much.